Mia from So Casually Chic, and I would like to welcome you to day 5 of the Bomdia Sew Along from Greenstyle. I can't believe we're already on day 5. This dress has been so quick and easy. I feel like it just flew by. Before we get started, this is your last chance to grab that pattern. You are running out of time to get it at the special sew along rate of 25% off. Click through my blog, add it to your cart, and click checkout, and then you will see the price drop from 15% off currently to 25% off just for you because you're special. And I'd also like to remind you to use your 10% discount from our sew along from Minerva.com, who is one of our fantastic sponsors for this sew along. I love Minerva fabric. As I mentioned before, this dress is from Minerva, and they have a 10% coupon for us. It is code BOMDIA10 for you to use at checkout, and that is good through January 30th. Be sure to use that. Look through all their amazing fabrics. They are so awesome. Love them. Today's video is for the tasks of making and attaching the neckband. And if you did a sleeveless version, you will be making and attaching the armbands. And I'm showing you 2 different techniques. Let's take a quick look at my striped dress that I made. I'll show you how to do the regular bands, which is what I have here on this neckband, and also I'll show you the hidden bands like on my striped dress. You can use either. It's totally up to you, whatever your preference is, and it may, like for me, change based on what your fabric is. So watch one of them, watch the other one, watch both of them, totally up to you. But I'm really excited for you to finish your Bomdia dress today, and I can't wait to see pictures of you wearing them or even flat lays. I just want to see what you've done, and I'm so excited for you to have the experience of this awesome dress. To begin our bands, we will iron a crease down the center. So place the band faced up on your table and fold it in half so that you have the wrong sides folded together, and iron that crease in there really well. This is the same technique for the neckband and also for the armbands. Once you've got that crease set, you are going to fold the band in half with the short ends together, pin them, and give them a quick stitch at 3/8 inch seam allowance. Now that the band is stitched, I'm going to mark the quarter points by folding it in half and making a little mark, then folding it in half again and marking the ends. I'm using Sharpie, partly because I'm doing a video and I want to make sure you can see my marks, but also because this fabric is so wild that if I'm careful to mark in the seam allowance, it will never be seen, and I feel like living on the wild side. So once I've made the marks, I will place the pins. And now I'm going to do the same thing with my neck opening. If you're doing this for the armbands, you'll do this to the arm side opening. So I've connected the shoulder seams together to find the center front and the center back. And then I will take the center front and center back that I've just found, and I will put those 2 together to find the other quarter points. Keep in mind that your quarter points are not going to be the shoulder seam. It's probably about, on my size, 1.5 inches away from the shoulder seam. So you want to hold that center front and center back together and carefully find that quarter point. But you see where I'm putting my pin compared to the shoulder seam? It's not in the same spot. Turn the dress inside out and start attaching the band to the neckline by finding the seam on the band and attaching that to the back of the neckline. Armbands attach the seam of the band to the side seam of the dress. You want to attach the band to the right side of the dress and make sure that the part of the band that's touching the dress is the part of the band that you want facing outward. and then go around and match up all the quarter points. To stitch the band, you'll use a stretch stitch or a serger, as I am. If you are new to stitching bands, I recommend basting it on first. It can be a little tricky to learn how much to stretch the band, and sometimes you get puckers in there when you're new. Baste it on, check everything, and then come over to the serger to attach it. That way, if you have any corrections to make, you don't have to pull out serger stitches. You will be stretching that band a little bit as you attach it, just enough so that there aren't any puckers or folds on the dress and that everything lays flat together. You'll just want to double check to make sure everything looks nice and smooth and that there are no puckers or missed layers of fabric. And when you're satisfied, you can head over to your top stitching machine of choice, and I am using my cover stitch again. You're going to make sure that seam is pointed downward, and you can give it a quick press if you'd like. And you are going to be stitching on the dress fabric, not the band. Here's a different method that you can use to create a neck binding that is hidden inside your dress. I decided to use this method when I didn't want to make a band and try to line up stripes or use a solid fabric across the front of my dress. When you use this method, you do need to keep in mind that the neck opening will be larger since the band won't be going in towards the neck and taking up more space. You can simply use the band piece from the pattern, or if you change the size of the neck opening, you can easily calculate and create your own binding piece. First, measure the neck opening, and then take that figure and multiply it by 0.9, and then add ½ inch, and that will be the length of your band. I made mine 1½ inches tall. In this example, I've already ironed the crease down the center and stitched the 1/4 inch seam allowance to close up the band. Find and mark the quarter points on the binding piece. And just like the band method, you'll find and mark the quarter points on the neck opening. Use the shoulder seams to find the front and center back, and then match up the front and center back in order to find the other 2 quarter points, keeping in mind that they won't be at the shoulder seams. Pin the binding piece to the right side of the dress by lining up the seam of the binding with the back center of the neck. Ideally, the dress will be inside out at this point, and I'm not quite sure why I did it with the dress right side out, but you should probably turn your dress inside out to do this part. So there's the binding piece pinned to the dress. The raw edges are lined up together, and you're going to stitch it all together using a stretch stitch or serger. Again, just being very careful that you're not stretching the dress as you sew. You only want to pull the band enough so that the dress is flat and so that you're not stitching any puckers into the seam. Here's another view. So you can see my fingers are just adjusting and holding the dress to make sure that it's nice and flat and that I'm not pulling and stretching the dress. I also like to serge just past the thread tail so that I cut it off. Then I'll turn my knife off and stitch a couple more inches to cover up that spot where I started my initial stitch. Now it looks a lot like we've just stitched on a band, but we're not quite done yet. So we'll take it over to the ironing board and we'll do a little bit of ironing to prepare the binding for stitching. First thing we'll do is iron that seam allowance so that it's pointed downward. And the reason we're more careful on ironing this part is because we are going to fold it in and stitch it down, and we just really want that edge to be nice and neat to have a beautiful finish. We don't want any bubbling. Now we turn it over and iron the same thing from the outside. So the seam is still pointed down and we're just ironing the outside of that seam so that it's nice and flat. Once it's all ironed, we can start folding the binding inward and pinning right along that edge. We'll fold it right where the seam is and add pins. Now we can take a closer look at this edge that we are about to finish. As you can see, it looks clean on the outside. You don't see any binding. If you look straight from the top, you can see that seam is right along the edge. And then on the inside is the finished edge of the binding. So all we have left to do is finish it using our cover stitch, twin needle, or zigzag stitch. I like to start from the back, so that when I overlap the beginning and the end of my stitching, that is in the back and not right in the front. And there you go, a finished edge on your neck opening, but with hidden binding. And again, you can use this finish on your arm openings as well. And that's it, my friends. You have now completed your very own Bomdia dress. I am so proud of you. Give yourselves a pat on the back and then let me know how it went in the comments. I'd love to hear from you and try to answer all questions promptly. And be sure to head on over to the Greenstyle Facebook group to check in on today's Sew Along post. Just search #BomdiaSAL to find all my posts. I can't wait to hear from you.